Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to RWBY Fangame Panel 1. My name is Adrian, also known as Ishmaru or Delphi Design, and I want to introduce you to our other guest today.
Well, I'll go first then because everyone's a bit quiet. My name's JayJay. I do the Fading Light video game, and nice to be here. We'll be talking about some fan games today.
Yeah, what's up, everyone? I'm Sxips. I'm the creator of the RWBY mod for Mario Party Superstars.
And unfortunately, Steve couldn't make it today, but he does give us a video that we will play shortly. I want to briefly mention that I also run the fan game. There's a wiki as well as the Discord server. There's a lot of fan games that have been made or attempted to made, and we've been slowly trying to archive anyone that's currently playable. We have a link to our Discord below, so definitely check that out if you want to find out more. And we're going to have not one but two more panels later on during Summer RWBY, so definitely check them out too. All right, well, without further ado, let's go talk about our projects. I'll go first. So the project I was working on is called RWBY Huntress of Veil. It used to be known as RWBY, a RWBY fan game. I recently have been doing a whole UI remaster of it, including a new name. But this was not actually my first game. I actually worked almost about 10 years doing indie game development, many games with my own IP. This is actually my first game that isn't an RTS, which is real-time strategy. Traditionally, I work on games kind of like StarCraft or Command and Conquer, but that doesn't really translate to RWBY, so I wanted to make something more like in the fighting slash beat 'em up genre. It started off as a solo project, but it slowly gained enough steam that people have volunteered their time, and it's been really amazing to get all the help that I've gotten. I have dedicated music and sound engineer, voice actresses. I had Lucky help me with a lot of the story, so I'm definitely grateful for all the help that I've gotten. And with with RWBY particularly, I wanted to, because I watched a lot of anime, but what made RWBY so special was kind of like I had a particular my life story is very similar to RWBY's in a lot of respects, so I kind of had a lot of attachment towards that character, and just having that along with the fact that as much kind of grief that Rooster Teeth has gotten over the years, their actual guidelines towards fan work is actually really lenient. I wouldn't really dare do a fan game outside of that because many of their IPs would just hunt you down.
Looking at you, Nintendo.
Yeah, Square Enix too. Um, well, what makes Huntress of Veil in unique was I do a few interesting things. One of the biggest ones that I'm most proud of is this fact that you're able to modify Crescent Rose with all sorts of upgrades. Like she can get like saw attachment and an axe mode and sword mode, and there's going to be even more fun stuff coming down the pipeline. So look forward to that. Um, as for the future, Huntress of Veil is going to continue to grow. I recently started working with voice actresses to do the game's combat engine, but we're going to be expanding and even doing some voice acting for the cutscenes. We're going to continue with the story. I've had to spend the past year working on optimizing the game, so the game is actually a lot more streamlined than it ever was, and it's going to help kind of do a lot more cool things in the future. So I'm really excited. I would love to talk about that, but I'm going to leave that a secret, and you can see that as they come. So definitely check out Hunters of Veil. Um, it's made on Click Team Fusion. It's an engine that I've actually worked with since I was actually a little kid. It used to be known as the Games Factory, and went even before as
Click and play.
Click and Play. Yep. There's a lot of memories to that. So I particularly decided to work with that engine because one, I knew it so well, but two, being a 2D engine kind of gave me some advantages with working with the 3D models because I'm not really used to working with melee combat in my previous entries. So that was something I had to learn. So working with Click Team Fusion, I'm able to kind of do some cheats. And I actually will have a video coming for Summer of RWBY where I talk about the creation of the combat animations of the game. And I'm actually going to dive further into that. But that's the reason why I went with that engine. And you'll see more. Other than that, I think that's all I have to say for now. I'll love to pass it to Jay.
Well, right. So my name's Jay. As I said previously, I made the game RWBY Fading Light. It's another Click Team Fusion project. Much like Ishmaru, I just find it as a good little engine for fast prototyping. So what I like about it is you can really get into it. As for why I made a RWBY game, well, simply, it was the right time, right place. I was looking to make a new game, and RWBY was in the height of it when I started making it. It was starting to get around, I think it was post-fall, so, RWBY was still doing quite popular, and I just had finished a game called Hyperlight Drifter, and I just wanted to see if I could make a system like that, because I thought it was fast-paced enough to sort of mimic the combat that we see in RWBY. My gaming, the history is I sort of, in terms of creation, is I'm just an independent fan developer of my own ideas. So I never really set out to create, the fan game or anything. It's usually just me experimenting with a concept that I like, and I usually just pick a thing at random. Like I've remade Resident Evil on the original Game Boy. I just picked that at random because I thought those two things could be kind of funny. But I've been developing off and on things since I was in high school. I've been doing Jedi Academy mods and all that kind of stuff. But Fading Light has been a sort of interesting project because it's the longest project I've ever actually worked on, including the 3-year hiatus that I took because I was kind of done because of a myriad of other things. When you work with other people, sometimes you can be let down. I'll go in a little bit into that, not in a sort of complaining method, but it's just interesting when you do work or even commission other people that sometimes you can learn quite a lot from other people because you might not get what you were expecting. I'll go into that a bit later, I think. But Fading Lights had a pretty good reaction that sort of kept me going with it. People that like it seem to kind of really like it, so I eventually came back to it, and I've just had a big release. I've finished. I've essentially finished the project. If anyone want to play it, it's even got a level editor for those who want to make their own content. It'll never end. RWBY will never end. Always 20 seasons, Morty. Anyway, we'll go into a bit more of the conversation on all that stuff later. So I think I'll then pass it on to the next person, Sxips. There you go.
All right. Well, thank you, Jay. So once again, I'm Sxips, and I made a RWBY mod for a little game called Mario Party Superstars for the Switch. And I bet you're wondering, why would this person put all these RWBY characters into Mario Party? Well, I'm going to answer those as best as I can. I've always liked the Mario Party series itself has always been a strong part of my childhood ever since I was really young. And I've always wanted to I've always imagined other characters from different IPs in Mario Party because it's a funny idea. And it was a very good way to practice how to model import for different games, especially for Switch titles. And so when I got the opportunity to set up Switch Toolbox and be able to hack my Switch, I was like, you know what? I like RWBY. That's one of the IPs I like. I think it'd be really funny to put them in Mario Party. And so that's what pretty much I did. I think previously before going to Switch modding, I've made custom content for different games. Even for Mario Party 3 itself, I've made custom boards for it as well. And I've also made custom courses and racers for a fan game called Sonic Roll Blast 2 Kart, and I've dabbled with Zone Builder for that for that game as well. So yeah. I guess that's pretty much what I could say right now for it.
Okay, well, let's go. I know Steve has a video on talking about the creation of it. maybe let's dive a little bit into the creation of our projects, and let me show some video footage of our projects while we talk about exactly how it was made.
Just bear with us as we get the videos playing. Oh, here we go.
Yep.
There you go. That's a start.
So this is Huntress of Veil. So like I briefly alluded to, this was a Click Team 2D beat 'em up engine that I started over 3 years ago. It involves 2D sprites that are generated from 3D models that I created and animated. You probably noticed that the characters all have different alternate costumes because this is also an alternate storyline. The idea was to basically, I wanted to kind of play off of the more kind of fun, fun's not the right word, but more like the earlier era of the poser years, Beacon era was a lot more, lighthearted and kind of villain of the
Whimsical.
Yeah, whimsical is good way to describe it, which we've kind of lost because of the direction the story turned, much darker and grittier now. So I wanted to kind of play off of an alternate reality of that. What if, they got to graduate Beacon, got their license to be huntsmen, what kind of huntsman life they could have left if it wasn't involving the Salem Ozma War. So right now, the game has actually 5 playable characters. One is kind of a secret bonus character. If you follow, me on any of my channels or on Twitter, you would know that it's Team RWBY along with Penny as a little bonus character. What I wanted to do with the design of this is to have every single character have a very unique moveset. So, because the idea was to try to make the combat feel as close to the series as I could. So moves and stuff are more inspired by things that you do in the show, but also even their map outs for how they're brought up in combos, it's actually designed to feel like you are doing those actions. For example, both Yang and RWBY can use their weapon to propel themselves forward, but how it's done is slightly different. Like RWBY would have to, since she has to swing her skies behind her in order to fire a shot to push herself forward, you actually have to actually do a light attack first, and then you can follow up with a shot to propel yourself forward. Whereas Yang, she's a lot more nimble, and she can actually do her propulsion by just simply running and shooting, and that will propel her forward. So
We'll just interrupt you there for a second, Ishmaru. The chat says that you're quite quiet. Apparently we're fine, but if you could boost your personal volume just a small amount. Sorry to interrupt your train of thought.
Mm-hmm. See.
And once you've done that, you were talking about how the other characters work. You just finished talking about how Yang is different.
I might just be talking way too low. Do I sound better?
I think that sounds a bit better. Anyway,
you sound good. Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay, cool.
Back to the fairy tale. Back to the show.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, with the combat, like I also kind of took some liberties with how like the shooting mechanics work. Every single character has a completely different shooting mechanic, both in terms of like the dust that you can equip, but also like RWBY has to, set her weapon down to start shooting. Blake always fires 3-round burst. Yang can only fire like a 1-2 punch. Weiss has multiple projectiles, but it uses dust instead of bullets. And Penny has some really cool stuff. Her combat is probably the least inspired by the show. I kind of took a lot of liberties with her, kind of taking inspiration from things like Mobile Suit Gundam and things like that. So so like her shooting mechanic, if you've ever seen Gundam, they have these new types can deploy these little drones that can attack from all range, and basically her shooting mechanic works in a similar manner where she can kind of deploy her blades and they would act independently and take a shot after a few seconds, but it allows you to do stuff where you can use it in mid combo or even while running or dodging. So that's some interesting mechanics. And other just neat things, like I mentioned, the Crescent Rose customization. I do play a lot with characters, so one of the rules I wanted to have was not to have a OC base game, like a original character. I wanted to try to keep as many characters from the series as I can, because one, there's just a lot of them, so I don't want to keep adding to that pool, but also really wanted to kind of focus down on limit the number of characters involved to kind of keep the story kind of more focused and on the individual characters and their relationships with each other. Other than that, I think that's a good description. Let me see quick.
Well, if you're searching for a bit more to talk, someone just said how the models remind them of WC3. Not sure on that exact game, but your art style has always been a fascinating one to me. It's sort of such a Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy VII style thing. Did you want to talk about how that comes about? Because I've always wondered about that.
Oh yeah, sure. So the funny thing with that, so the WC3 is Warcraft 3, and I can kind of see that.
There we go.
Because it kind of has that aesthetic as well, because it was an RTS made. It was one of the early days of 3D RTSs, so it's going to have very low poly models. But so with my design, I grew up with the N64 PlayStation era of video games, and then I matured with the PS2 as my primary
We're
console.
so old. We're so old, Ishmaru.
So for me, it's always been like when I design games, I kind of like to allude back to that my childhood growing up, and I love all the graphic fidelity we have in modern games now, but to me, like the golden era would always be that kind of era of games. So that's kind of what I want to mimic. And on that note, it's kind of funny because a lot of people think of Final Fantasy VII or N64 when they see my models. But the reality is they're actually way too high poly for that generation. They're probably closer to like Dreamcasts and PlayStation 2. But still, I definitely take the compliment.
They actually remind me a lot of the Mega Man Legends models. If you've played that game, they kind of give that vibe of Mega Man Legends, the art style of that in a sense.
Yeah, that was the PS2 one, right?
It's PS1.
Yeah, yeah. I think I know what game you're talking about. Yeah, it does have that too.
It usually, I think that style is more, most people associate it with how the skeleton works, less to do with the poly count. How it's not a deformed skeleton, it's I don't even know what you call that. Is it just a loose model skeleton? I don't know what the technical term is.
You mean like the limbs and stuff are not attached to the main mesh kind of thing?
Yeah, well, yeah. I know that you'd have some deformation. I've seen some of your models, but overall they give that vibe of like a loose mesh armature.
Correct, yeah. I typically have like just like the torso, the head's separate meshes, the arms are separate meshes, and the legs are separate meshes.
Which is great because you don't have to deal very much with a weight painting, because weight painting is the devil.
Yeah, I think I've used the envelope system, so I don't know if you know of that. That might be outdated, but
outdated, but it's not the devil.
correct.
Yeah, I think like one thing I do like about your designs for them is that like I know how you said you didn't want it to like when going to this project you didn't want to like make like original OCs for this type of AU for RWBY. So you decided to take your own spin on redesigning a bunch of these characters, and I do appreciate like a lot of like the creative liberties you went with like redesigning them, like some of the with the outfits they wear and all that.
Yes, thanks. And you can't really see it here, but some of them I take some real like a lot of liberties. I know Penny, like I mentioned, has a lot inspiration from Gundam, but even characters. So the main villain in this one, like Grim Eclipse, is Dr. Malo, but I don't have any footage to show right here. But if you ever seen his character model, he looks nothing like the Grim Eclipse Merlot. Like his inspiration is closer to almost like Ishida from Bleach, because I wanted to have more of a younger kind of. The idea was more to have him less angry old mad scientist and have him more like Doctor Wu, kind of from the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World series. So really, like he definitely loves what he does, but he also has some morality with what he's trying to do. It's not just I'm evil because I'm a mad scientist kind of thing.
See, I always found your attention to detail for your AU one of the things that was one of the best parts of it. Like down to the fact that while Ruby seems to have graduated now, she seems to find a love of like a hot topic subscription. She has like a plaid skirt, but the detail you went into that is now her semblance dash is plaid. And when I saw that, I thought that was the best thing ever. And then I like AUs like this where you've expanded out the story and just enjoy where you're at, because you could easily start spinning your own versions of that AU where like, why is she wearing plaid? Well, maybe she became friends with Coco and they went that she discovered fashion rather than just going to the Lolita store.
Exactly. I haven't been able to put it in the game yet, but I actually do have a story written as to one where she gets her new look from, and two,
Mm,
why she has a scarf and not her signature cloak. There's an
right.
actual reason for that. Actually,
No spoilers.
I'm sorry, yeah, I won't say it now, but it's coming up in a later, in kind of like a little free missions. Oh, I didn't even mention that. Like the game, aside from the story, more of a linear story, but there's a whole bunch of side missions that you're freely able to do, and even like that, trying to have the feeling of being a huntsman. That whole UI is designed to look like you're looking down through your scroll and you're picking it through a nap. So yeah, there'll be some free missions about the origins of Ruby's look and her um, missing cloak.
Mm.
Mhm. Interesting.
Also, headphones, because headphone Ruby in Volume One was so cool, and I wish you got to see that more aside from that pilot episode.
Yes, the sort of the tone of Ruby as a character herself has changed. I'm not going to say for the better or worse, but is a very that early volume. What you're trying to capture is much more light-hearted and fun, and something like her with a big set of headphones running around feels just so right for the character that you're trying to continue as they once were.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with that too, like this is a lighthearted game, but there is still some, some moments, emotional moments, and actually, not gonna lie, like Volume 9 actually changed some parts of the story, and in Chapter 3, there's some stuff that takes some direct inspiration from Volume 9 slash a little bit from Ice Queendom as well.
Oh, very much so. I remember when we were sort of doing a play in the Sketchy Huntsman server of it, we were just absolutely fascinated with that third chapter. Um, that was very out of left field, but in the best possible way. So if people want a nice Ruby story that hits some good beats, like I'm not trying to simp for your story, but I was genuinely surprised at how Ruby it felt while being its own thing. Just to bump your ego a bit.
I always can take that. Thank you.
Um, I'm just trying to steer the topic because have you thought about much how I've been thinking of it recently? With our choice of engine is damn, it's hard to build something for the modern audience because people don't really play many games on computers these days. Like the will you port question has constantly hit this little fandom because I think a lot of the as Rooster Teeth always said, the Ruby is skewed a lot younger, and a lot of young people don't play games on a computer these days. I mean, I'm not saying like these young kids, but Click Team Fusion just has a. It's such a pain, isn't it? Like we're building it for a closed ecosystem, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. As much as I love Fusion and it's capable, it's a very capable engine, but it does limit to, what we're capable of. So, but in terms of porting, I mean, it's been on my radar to port. Actually, there's been a Mac in build of the game in development. It's not easy because I don't exactly have a Mac to test on, so it makes it very limiting that factor. But it's coming, and there's also I actually really do want to port this to at least Android. So that could happen in the future. The only issue right now is because of the engine's limitation, I need to have two separate code bases. So I kind of want to
Yes.
reach a point where it's like I'm just adding content, adding levels and stuff like that, and not tweaking the engine of the game. because then I would have to tweak it on two separate code bases, and that's just a nightmare.
So I've noticed this is more aligned with a duo, like you have two characters, and I've always thought like Ruby would work really well as like a beat 'em up as you're showing right here, like as like say with like TMNT Turtles in Time, like that game, that franchise would work really well as like a Konami-esque like beat 'em up type game. So I'm wondering like at some point will you have like four characters on the screen you could play as them?
To be honest, I haven't actually thought about it. I was building this game aware that this engine could run a little bit steep with resources, so I was kind of assuming that that wasn't necessarily possible without really having issues with lag. So I kind of just limited to two, but with the optimization I spent the past year doing on, I greatly optimized the game where that may be a possibility, but it's not necessarily in the scope just yet.
Okay.
And bouncing off your point about the two-player thing, one thing that I was really surprised at was how intelligent your off-player feels. And then I got to peek behind the hood, and you were really good at making very simple systems look really smart. Like I was surprised. I thought you had a lot more brain power, not to put it down, behind them, because they fight really good for an AI character. That was a very interesting system to have a look at, actually.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's one of the design goals was one to have a partner character because I played Grim Eclipse and I mean, I actually did like it, but my biggest issue was I only played single player, so I was always lonely playing it. So it's one of the reasons why I kind of fell out of it. So
Mm,
when I built this, I really didn't want to have that kind of one person versus the world kind of situation. I really wanted to make it have that team dynamic. And
I think, yeah.
and this the AI was kind of a main factor as to even adding the characters. If the AI wasn't going to perform well, I wasn't going to even bother. Like it was, we've all played those games where the AI just kind of walks into death and you have to constantly save them. And
Mm,
for a long while in the early, especially the earlier days, I actually had to dumb their AI down a little bit because in the early days, you would use, because the early days of the game, you can only play as Ruby, and your Weiss would always be, or Blake and Yang would always be CPU only, and they would basically have to bail you out of every situation. Because before I had a lot of the defense mechanisms that I have currently, it was really just kind of you had to run up and kind of run away if you wanted to dodge an attack. And back in
mm.
those days, the AI basically carried you most of the way. So I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, that was always a design thing I thought was very strange with Grim Eclipse. Conversations on the quality of Grim Eclipse aside, like designing a game that it has a single player story that you can play single player, but unless you have four friends, you're getting 1/4 of the story is a very strange thing. I thought they to do, and I actually like your version of better. With even if your AI wasn't good, at least have the characters there. You're playing a Ruby game. You'd like as many of those characters around as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, especially it's one of the things that I really liked about Ruby the show was there's so many fights where it's just a huge free for all from multiple characters. As opposed to like some of the classic anime that I grew up with, where it's kind of like a one versus one while everyone just kind of watches. And to see it kind of just even now with Arafel was still you can only pick one character at a time. I kind of really yearn for that kind of dynamic. Having us be someone to be with you.
We'll probably address that in the upcoming Ultimate Fan Game, on the Ultimate RWBY Game panel about what is the best way to interpret the RWBY premise in a video game, because I think we've all got very interesting opinions on that. Not all of us agree, not disagree, but yeah, that'll be a very interesting panel for those who want an in-depth discussion about how to make a RWBY game if you had all the time and effort in the world.
Yep, I agree with that. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time, all your time, so I want to make sure everyone gets their say. So I'll go pass it to Jay or Sxips. You want to go?
You can go, Skips. I'll round it out. I've got a bit more time than I thought.
Oh, okay.
If you're ready, of course.
Yeah, I'm ready to talk about it. I just don't know where to begin because like there's a lot I could talk about with this of how this became like a thing. I guess like once my video shows off.
I think I've thrown Ishmaru out. I think he had my video queued up, ready to go.
Okay, well there we go. So now you're gonna see gameplay of them in game. So where do we begin with this like project? So yeah, there you have Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang in Mario Party Superstars. There they are. You see gameplay of them in the minigames and stuff. So yeah, this initially started out, like I said before, I was getting into Switch modding, and I started experimenting with Switch Toolbox and Blender, of course. And I think the first character I tried modding in from RWBY, I think it was Yang. I was putting Yang over Daisy, and originally, they had their Volume 1 to 3 designs, and they were still from, I think from that mobile game. I think it was at Midi Arena. That's what I found like the initial models from. I wasn't sure like if they had other models like from that mobile game until I forget who it was. I think it was a Lavender Rare gave me their models from Volume 9 because they did have those models in that mobile game, and I think those models fit really well with like the aesthetic of Mario Party, so they wouldn't feel like too out of place with them.
I think
And oh, what happened? Oh, I thought you were asking me a question.
No,
Sorry.
I was going to say that I think the Amity Arena models look perfect in the Mario Party world.
Yes,
Yeah.
and even some of the stages start to mirror the at least the conceptual feel of Volume 9, so it all feels like a fever dream.
Yeah,
In a good way, of course.
Yeah, this is how like Volume 9 should have been, honestly. But that's just me. I'm kidding. But
If you had a beach episode, I'd be all for it.
yeah, so Yang was the first one I put in, and then Yang was over Daisy, and then was Weiss over Peach, and two of them fit perfectly. And here's where problems kind of started out, because Ruby and Blake were over Mario and Luigi's armature and model, like the rigging, so they look kind of off. Like the images aren't here in the video, like what they're old, like what they used to like back then, but like it was kind of like a nightmare, like having like Mario and Luigi's proportions on two of those characters. So it wasn't until later on I was able to figure out that you could actually like put existing characters, animations, and models like over another character, and it won't cause any like issues or desyncs with the game. Because what happens in base Mario Party Superstars is that, like, say if you're playing online with randoms, so say like if you pick Donkey Kong, and on your screen you're Donkey Kong, but on the other person's screen, you could be another character, because say if that other person's picking Donkey Kong as well. So
It's
it just
like-
yeah, it switched the animations and model of a different character onto the character. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it switches it. Like, it doesn't desync it. Yeah.
I mean, that might be an interesting point to go in with. Do you want to explain how you mod a closed system? Like, I wasn't really aware that there was any way to do that. I thought it was such a closed ecosystem.
It's funny you say it, because it is, until this point, we didn't really know how to like mod like the GameCube Mario Parties until recently, which I will get to later on about that, because of how like the file structures work when Hudson Soft made those games. But yeah, it was a lot of work. So what I did is that I replaced Mario and Luigi's animations and armature and skeletons with daisies, and then put it over Ruby and Blake, and that's why they're properly like that, as you can see in the video footage as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I was
Well,
saying,
it's
sorry.
You've
Go
done
on.
such a good job that I just assumed you had more control over the armatures in general. So you've done a really good job of finding things that line up, because I didn't even. Yeah, no, it's very well done, actually.
Yeah, and I have to like give like a big shout out to the Mario Party modding community or Discord, because they definitely helped me out with like that whole issue with fixing with the armature stuff and finding a way to replace like existing characters' animations with another character. And like it was really such a cool like breakthrough too, because we had no idea like that was like possible until like I decided to do this modding thing for Superstars. We had no idea like that actually worked. You could just mod characters like that and have them replace other animations with another character.
So I'm assuming that you've got direct control of like audio assets. We don't have Ruby going, "It's a me."
Oh yeah,
you know,
all the voice clips are replaced too. They have voice clips
fantastic.
from the cross tag battle, and from Smite as well. I think it was Smite. It was Smite. It was Paladins actually. I got voice clips from there.
Oh, Ruby, selling yourself out to any game company that would let you in.
The issue is this isn't like a modded problem. This is more a line of how Mario Party Superstars is structured with audio, because a lot of audio clips are repeated a lot, like in a sense of like it's like weird. Like if I showed you how like the files are structured for audio, it's like there's a lot of like repeated like sayings and stuff like that. Like sometimes you get a bit annoying, like because like when a character does like a simple action in a minigame, like in the older titles the characters would just stay silent most of the times for the minigames when they do an action, but in like the recent Mario parties they just go crazy like what they're saying. Like Mario will go like I did it like half the time and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not that bad actually. I was able to find like the perfect, I wouldn't say perfect, I'd be like the acceptable like voice lines to use for like certain actions and all that, and I think it isn't as bad like I thought it would be, like once this actually like you play in game like with the voice clips and all that.
Are things like custom stages a possibility, or is that probably too far outside the wheelhouse?
Custom boards are possible in Superstars. Actually, the thing is they have to like reuse existing events that are already built into the boards. Like we have 2 recreations of Mario Party 1 boards of Mario's Rainbow Castle that reuses the events from Yoshi's Tropical Island, and we have Luigi's Engine Room from Mario Party 1 as well, because that board also reused the gimmick from Woody Woods, which the paths like are switched like each turn.
Okay. Replace Bowser's face in this video with like Salem, so you get to make her like the volume 6 intro where you like she's all screaming and melty faced. I hate that.
Yeah, but also all the UI is replaced too, as you can see. Like the Mario's,
well, yeah.
I even went the extra mile to like in some mini games where like you see like the characters like hand sprite. Like I had to like find models of like their volume 7 designs, like pose them in Blender and like take a snapshot of like their hands like grabbing and stuff to give like the illusion of that. You'll see right here, like in this clip.
I didn't even notice that at first. That's pretty cool.
I keep thinking of who you could replace the little dude dropping the blocks with from RWBY. I'm like, I don't know, the cat. I don't know. Nora.
Yeah, so far it's just RWBY, Weiss, Yang, and Blake. I have the other characters like that aren't replaced, like Yoshi's still there, Donkey Kong, Wario, Waluigi, and Birdo. But on my end, Rose is replaced with another character of a mod I haven't released yet that isn't from RWBY. So I'm just saying Rose is not in my like game anymore. I'm telling you that right now. I modded her out, but I kept them in there because I like the idea of like characters crossing over with other characters, especially like they're just playing Mario Party. I think that's like really funny. I played so many games with my friends in Superstars. Like I stream in the call and like they look at my perspective. You just see Yoshi, Blake, and Weiss and RWBY just like on Woody Woods from Mario Party 3, and that's like really funny to me. That's also like why I made them on in the first place, because of this concept. Oh, I wasn't sure if you were about to say something. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, sorry. I was just enjoying the video. I think it's quite funny.
Oh, this scene, this game board always reminds you like the most of Volume 9. Like it feels with the.
Oh yeah, because they shrunken down. I think they would fit perfectly for Mario Party DS. For like essentially, that's where the gimmick of that whole board is that, or not the board. The whole game is that like everyone's shrunken down, like the size in Mario Party DS, which is kind of like what happens in Volume 9.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the Nintendo approved Suicide Tea minigame.
Oh boy.
Sorry.
So what I was talking about before, like there's not footage here, but I was talking about the GameCube Mario parties. So recently there has been a big breakthrough of like finally like we have found a way to like model import for those games and all that. But the problem is that the person who's developing the tool, Kills Gaming, he hasn't been around since like March. But luckily, he's supplied me with like he's helped me like test the models of these like in the GameCube Mario parties, specifically Mario Party 4, and it's looking pretty good so far. And hopefully, like when Kills comes back like from his hiatus, like he releases the tool because he was like near done with it. So you can expect to see RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Yang in the GameCube Mario parties because I'll put them in there because it'll be funny.
Is that done through emulation, or is that something that can actually be achieved on hardware?
You could probably play it on hardware, just like because what it is with GameCube modding, you're patching the ISO with like the modded assets into it. So if you have the ISO and you run it on like a Nintendo on like Wii or something, you could just play it on hardware. But usually, like you just run it on Dolphin.
Yeah, I assumed it was something like that.
Yeah.
Do you have much more you want to say? You've got any more topics?
I don't know if you guys have like more questions about like it. I'm willing to answer it. I think I've said like a lot of stuff, like as much as I can about this silly little adventure I went on creating this whole mod.
No, just want to say it looks really cool. Like, like this should have been kind of like the idea of like if they wanted to do especially like a RWBY TV game, that's what they should have done instead of just like I know we're looking at a puzzle game right now, but I meant like having it be these like multiple little games that just fits a lot better.
That's a fascinating idea, RWBY Chibi type thing.
Oh,
yeah, that would have been a really good. Yeah, they missed that boat as well. They missed a lot of boats.
I would love to design a RWBY Chibi Mario Party-esque game. I think how I would design is that the main 8 characters, kind of like in Mario Party 3 to 4, would just be Team RWBY and Team Juniper, and I think all the boards would be based on like a specific part in like each volume so far. Like each volume is represented with like a specific like scene or like part of it, like be the board.
Yeah, I could see that. Maybe even just I know that some of these games have their own kind of like single player, but not really. But it's just you play them in order and it's a campaign or something. You can just do
it depends which one you're playing on has like a story mode.
Yeah, but I can see chibi versions of the entire like volume 1 plot where like you're running around on the train as I don't know someone's throwing stuff at you, or that kind of thing, and you got to dodge out of the way, or you got to I don't know. You could even do something dumb like you've got to draw lines and Blake's got to follow them. I don't know with like a laser pointer.
Yeah, you could do like say Forever Fall could be like a board. Like it's beautifully that would look really cool as like a board. Like stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think I said like a decent amount, and I'm willing to let it you go now, Jay, to showcase your stuff.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, these videos are not representative of my actual game because they're actually the development movie videos, and in fact, some of the sprites are outdated. But they really capture what I was trying to do, where it was a wanted. Well, firstly, Fading Light is 4 single player levels of good quality length based on the original color trailer. So you got your red like roses, mirror mirror, from shadows, and I burn, red by yellow. But what I wanted to focus on primarily was the movement. So much like the development of the original Mario 64, for the longest time, what you're looking at now, this dev room, was the game for myself. It was attempting to get different move sets down that feel like the characters, because I wanted to really nail how each one of them fights, because I've tried to make them fundamentally different, well, similar. They play the same, but they are played very differently. And after that, I think I got RWBY pretty good. I think RWBY is my strongest character in terms of the feel, though I personally prefer Blake, because if you can master her shadow clones, you're effectively invincible. I'll let you figure out how to do that. But then I worked on the red trailer. So the red trailer was the first bit that I released that people could play, and it was really good to get community feedback from it, because that was one of the things, because I'm just a hobbyist designer. I'm not going to sit here and try and get the absolute perfect thing on my own. Getting feedback from a lot of people on forums and stuff was really good. And that's one of the, as Ishmaru, you'd know, the bright side with Click Team Fusion is it's fast. For all its failings, there are many. It is probably the fastest way to get a game going with the least amount of knowledge. So changes were really simple to make. So then I started to narrow down, the characters more and more. But an interesting story on the development of it is people will know that I skipped the Weiss trailer for the longest time for many, many reasons. Largely, it was I still haven't been able to get the armored Gygus to be a boss that I can fight. Just haven't been able to do it. One of the interesting problems I had with it was I commissioned someone because it's such a big sprite. The previous sprites, by the way, all came from a LK64, and then eventually a Mimicry helped redo the RWBY because he really wanted to redo RWBY for me. So fantastic sprite work, but nothing existed of the Gygus. So I tried to commission someone to do it, and it didn't go very well. I won't go into bad mouthing an artist, but money was exchanged and product was not delivered, unfortunately. So that sort of took the wind out of the sails for that one, and that almost made me want to quit. But I kept going. I did the From Shadows and I Burn came out really good. But at that point, I was just starting to get a bit tired, so I sort of let it. I put it to bed. I released it. I bug fixed it a bit, and it's all right. Weiss was a playable character. She just didn't have her chapter. But there's this persistent RWBY player, RWBY game creator called Ishmaru, who basically guilted me. Not really. Convinced me that, come on, you're pretty close. You should just clean it up and just release something. Because I actually had done quite a substantial amount of work to Weiss's level, just not her boss. So we got talking, because Ishimaru and me met through fixing RWBY, something he drew. I was aware of his project before, but I don't talk to many people online. But so we started talking, and then we sort of figured out what I probably should do, and then I worked on the chapter, and I slowly started to get closer to it, and I sort of realized, look, I'll never do this Gygus fight because my heart's not in it. Like, I'm fully admitted to that, but I'd done enough good work, and enough people still asked me about it. I thought I at least owed them to clean it up and release it. So I did that, and then while doing that, I was talking to Ishimaru, and I kind of accidentally created a level editor that people can make their own levels in. So then I started to spiral that out into its own feature. So the latest feature actually has its own level creator. It's pretty limited. Like, you're not going to create Call of Duty, Black Ops, RWBY, or I don't know. Like, you can essentially make single player levels and triggers for enemies and stuff like that. And to tell your own little RWBY story. But then I kept going with things. So then, like, it's not shown in any of the work I've got here, but there's a visual novel component now. So if you wanted to tell your own story that had cutscenes, you can actually write small visual novel style scripts, and they'll load in and things like that. So it's a pretty complete package. So I'm pretty happy with it. And barring the bug fixes that I'm working on now, which there are a few, but not super bad.
There's always bugs.
There's always bugs. It's pretty feature complete. But then I made another decision for those that are interested. It's now open source. So if anyone has ClickTeam Fusion 2.5 with the DLC, anyone who knows what I'm talking about will understand. I'm just giving the values that you need, and are willing to look at, now seriously, some of the worst spaghetti code you've ever seen. The full project is available. You can do something as simple as change the sprites. Yes, a lot of RPG maker sprites, just to respond to someone, a lot of stolen sprites. I'm of the older generation where if it's on the internet and I'm not charging for it, it's free. Don't at me, bro. I'm using stolen Grim Eclipse audio. I'm using approved and accredited sprites. But, like, if it's RPG Maker, it's mine. I own it. I don't.
That's actually something that, like, it should be said too. Like, there's this kind of like weird stigma about like, yeah, definitely credit people when you use it, but there's a lot of assets out there that you actually are allowed to use. I mean, using audio from like Grim Eclipse is actually, from my understanding, allowed by the terms and guidelines, as long as you're not charging money for it, as long as you're not taking credit for it. So
Yes.
so definitely, I don't really, I mean, of course, if an artist wants credit, you should definitely credit them. Definitely do that. But there's definitely a lot of resources out there. It's one of the reasons I came up with the Discord server for fan games, because there's just tons of resources that people don't realize are out there that you can actually use.
Yes. All I say is I gave Grim Eclipse as much love and respect as Rooster Teeth did. I'll let you figure out what I mean by that. So yeah, so the sort of leading back into the design stuff is it was really interesting to interpret the characters in a gameplay form. Like, what makes the character? Like, watching the trailers again and again and again made me like, okay, that could be a move. That could be. I can't implement that. If you give Weissel her powers, she's effectively God. Like, it is very interesting. I'm not sure I got it perfectly right, and there is a much better way to do it. But I think as a small fan game project, I think I've done pretty good, because one of my things is, if you have a beautiful and original idea that you want to get, it's like a perfect gameplay system. Don't do that for a fan game. Fan games are a learning experience. You want to do something, but you don't want to have to do the legwork of creating like the entire Star Wars universe. You just want to make a Star Wars game, and people know what an X-wing and a TIE fighter is, so you can just have those. And I think a competently made RWBY video game based on the 4 characters is a pretty good place to learn how to do characters. So I was pretty happy with that. I'm just meandering. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, I mean, kind of brought up an interesting point about with the world, because there's also kind of like this. I feel like there's been this kind of stigma with fan games, especially, that they're kind of like low quality. But from the ones that I've seen, here, as well as ones that are coming in the later panels, as well as, unfortunately, there's a bunch of people who just couldn't make it or too shy to actually appear. But there's a lot of really good quality stuff out there.
Yes, I would completely agree. I mean, some of the best games I played have been fan games, and for the price of admission or free, it doesn't matter. As I've talked to you previously in private conversations, is I have a lot more games that I've never released, because I'm not making them for other people, which is really how you should do art. If you're making art for the prospect of having people tell you how good your art is, you're not making art, you're making a product. Fan game game creation for me is a hobby. It will always be a hobby. I have a full-time job. I'm never going to make it big on any of the games that I'm building, because they're not for that. There's the visual novel, by the way, in the trailer. And that's the level editor too. Yeah, so I just think people need to take that stigma away, because even if they're terrible, they're free. They're just absolutely free, and you're getting let into someone's design brain. Like, I have an incomplete version of a LucasArts style adventure game set for the original 1977 Alien movie. I'm like, no one would ever think that was going to be a thing, but I did it, and it exists, and you can actually download it, because I uploaded it, but I didn't finish it. I have no plans on finishing it, but it's there, so you can have a look at it and go, that's pretty neat. Yeah, that's just my view on fan games. I think people get such a bee in their bonnet about it's either not good enough, too good, or you're so going to get sued. If I hear that comment one more time.
Yeah, I've gotten that comment a lot too.
Yeah, I always hate that comment immediately, when you put so much effort, when you see like the fan games, you see there's clearly a bunch of passion and effort into it. You just see little Johnny on the YouTube comments saying, "You're gonna get blocked for this by the company, dude, you're gonna get blacklisted."
Oh no, I won't be able to do the job that I have. That's definitely related to video games, because a company in America has decided that I did a bad. I'm like, no, right? Look, it's a fan game. If they tell me to take it down, I will. I'm still going to work on the fan game. You can't stop me doing that. But that's sort of getting a bit negative, and that's not a dig at Rooster Teeth, because they've never even. I don't even think they know I exist. And neither do they.
Well, the thing is too, like I mentioned in mine, is that according to the terms and guidelines that Rooster Teeth had, fan games are okay. As long as you're not paywalling them, and as long as you're not taking you make sure to mention that you're not affiliated with them, and but you also mention that this isn't your IP. These people are pretty cool with it. I mean, even Grim Eclipse started as a fan game.
Yes.
I
still have my original download of that. It's getting harder to find, but I have it. Though there's a hidden version 2 out there that I know exists because I've seen it, and I know people who have played it, where there is a forest level. I know it exists out there somewhere.
Yeah, and I actually, in what turned out to be Rooster Teeth's final RTX, I actually met Neith and Carrie and Eddie, and I actually gave them a card with the link to my game. I don't know if Carrie and Eddie had ever played it, but I know Neith did. He actually sent me a photo of him with the main menu on his screen, and it was pretty cool. So
yeah, that's very nice. He's a good guy overall. Good guy.
Yeah. So I mean, to hear all that kind of stuff was hard, and especially now because it's a lot of gray area. It's a lot of gray area right now. So with the Warner Brothers kind of owning them and possibly acquisition by another company, so it's someone asked about that earlier. It's definitely been a stress moment for me because this is the only fan game I've ever made. I've done a lot of games inspired by, but they've always been my IP. I have game Super Galaxy Ranger Luna, which is heavily inspired by Jet Force Gemini, and
that's an old name.
World is heavily inspired by Command and Conquer, and Terra Centauri is inspired by StarCraft, but they're definitely not direct clones, and they're definitely not fan games of those for that specific reason. So it's very little uneasy waters for me right now because I put a lot of love and effort into this RWBY game. It's kind of my main project. I even sidelined a previous project to work on this, so hopefully things pan out. So with that,
one side piece of advice that's just popped up when you just talked about that, my brain was like, I forgot that at several times I almost lost the entire source code to the game. Guys, back up stuff. Just in general, this is just a great piece of advice.
Yeah, always save once you do one small thing in your projects. It's the save button's the save key's right there. Just always save your work as you can.
Oh, but not even that. That's good. But physically archiving, not just even the save file for the project.
Oh yeah, of course, builds and stuff. Yeah. That's all
builds, asset libraries. I did archive that, but I lost that archive. But I was just lucky that I didn't need it. So it's just just a random piece of thing.
on a similar vein of that too, I know this is specifically for Click Team, but I always had to have multiple copies of it because you never know when things corrupt.
Yes, especially bigger games. That's the thing. Click Team has a big problem with that. Bigger projects and projects that use external assets like extensions and stuff have a tendency just to die just randomly. It is a great piece of software, but Jesus Christ, I couldn't imagine making a real proper big boy game in it. I would die.
Yeah, this is the biggest RWBY Huntress of Veil is the biggest Click Team project I worked on. I mean, aside from another one which is still on hold, so I guess it's technically not at the moment, but all my really, really larger scale games like Annex and stuff was done in a different engine, which the reason why it's so bad with Click Team is Click Team likes every asset you use, whether it's sound, graphics, effects, it all gets saved into one binary file. So if that file corrupts, you lose everything.
Yes.
Whereas other engines, you can have a file corrupt, but you just need to replace that one file and you're good to go. With Click Team, you can lose projects overnight. So definitely, you should have. And if you could use something not necessarily for Click Team, but for other engines and stuff like that, especially ones that have multiple files, multiple things like that, using some sort of source repository like Git or Bitbucket, those are absolutely vital. There's going to find yourself doing some rollbacks where you think you go down the line and building a feature and then realize it wasn't worth it or it's too complicated, and then you're making a whole mess of your code, and you can easily just jump back in time and make it like it never happened.
Any fading light questions? I just trying to think. There's about a million little stories, but none of them are super interesting without. Just trying to think.
Well, no, not necessarily a question. But I did get to play around with your level editor. It was really good. Definitely really robust. So I was really impressed at the level of detail into that.
Yeah, I mean that was really an accident, and I'll talk briefly about it because I think we're just trying to spin out some time. Uh, Fundamentally, as long as you have an art program, like even you can do it in Paint, but that's all you need. You need fading light and a Paint program because all you do is you load in your assets that you want, and you sort of slowly Lego kit construct a level through a series of systems that are, I hope, quite intuitive. And you should be able to tell. You could tell using the fading light engine a full single player experience with cutscenes now because there's a level editor that's just done through text. If you have a notepad on your computer, and you can, it's not even coding. Like it's writing it like literally like a script, like a movie script. You could tell a story where it begins where Ruby's waking up and she wants to go get some cookies. Then you do a level where it's Beacon, and you go through Beacon just as Ruby. And when you go to the cookie store, you then meet Blake, and then you can change it that you now have both Blake and Ruby now because the Infinity engine, which is sort of separate from the base Fading Light engine, can support multiple characters now. That you swap them out. They're literally like you press up, press down, press left, press right. You can get the whole roster. You could go the whole way. And if you wanted to tell something outside a Volume 1 story, you could download the source code and swap out the sprites. If you're insane, you could attempt to add a new enemy. If you're absolutely insane, you could try and program a new character. But basically, I just want to let the people know that go for it. But don't ask me any questions. Don't ask me how my code works, because truthfully I have no idea. I've been trying to fix things from 5 years ago. I've been looking at my code. I literally believe I've been high. I've never done drugs, but looking at that code, I'm pretty sure I was high.
I know that feeling because when I did the new UI and optimization, I was editing code from years back, and a lot of it I'm just like completely floored as to how is this working ever. Or I'll run into a bug and I'll take a look at code and like, yeah, this should have never worked since like version 0.1. How has no one noticed till now?
Yeah, I managed to get ClickTeam Fusion to have pathfinding AI with a line of sight sensor and multi-stage attacks. Like, I don't know how you do that in ClickTeam. I don't know how I did. I stole a lot of people's code and merged it together in an unholy Frankenstein-style way. ClickTeam's weird. It's wild. It's a wild west of like just other people's projects. Shout out to Castles of Britain, which is a website where I just get all these little Fusion examples on XYZ how to do something. And then you just merge it together. The ClickTeam forums, before they lock down, and you need to have like a super duper registered mega account. Look, I don't have an account for ClickTeam Fusion. Let's just say that. No, say no more. I'm a bad man. But they were a really good asset of just people talking through. It's got a really good community. I just wish the engine wasn't unofficially abandoned. One of my big problems with ClickTeam. But yeah, if you I think people can have a lot of fun even without downloading the main program. If you just muck around with Infinity, I'd be very interested to see what people create.
And just on a little add-on with that, yeah, the reason why he says unofficially but officially, like, it's not necessarily that it's abandoned. It still has updates. It actually had an update, a couple months ago. It's more like the current version is at least it's called ClickTeam Fusion 2.5, but there's been supposedly a Fusion 3 in development for like a decade now, and something happened where that's been put on indefinite hiatus. So
yes, they're a very strange company. That's all I'll say. I don't know what's going on with them. They're genuinely good people, but they're a very strange company.
They do things like porting. Like they have services where they'll port your games like Switch and Xbox and Nintendo. And there's games you can play right now that were made with ClickTeam Fusion on modern consoles and stuff, and they'll handle that themselves. And apparently that
Yeah.
port is done in the Fusion 3 engine. But
Yeah, I
for whatever
believe
reason,
like
they're
the
both not
original.
released.
I believe the original Freedom Planet was a Click Team Fusion game, not
Yes, it was.
Freedom Planet 2. That was a Unity game, yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, the Game Maker. I think it was Game Maker. Anyway, yeah, I'm just meandering. Click Team Fusion, to answer that question, not someone had. Yeah. I'm just. We can move on to the Remnant VR man now, because unless any people have any questions, I'm rambling.
No, I think I'm good.
I think we're good. Yeah, we can go show. And for those who joined later, fortunately Steve, the Mitochondria, wasn't able to make it, but he provided us with a video to show about his project. So I'll go show that now.
His project being Remnant VR, for people who don't know.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, just quickly, Ishmaru, before you hit play, are you aware that none of the videos have had sound? So if he's talking over that video, yeah, good.
Yeah. This one has sound. I turned off the sound in all the other videos so we can talk over them.
Just wanted to make sure. Perfect. Good man.
But please let me know if there's no sound on this. There should be.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Mitochondria.
And my
No
name's
sound.
Dinky.
And
All right, hang on. One moment.
I need that picture from Ruby Chibi of technical difficulties where RWBY is pulling out a cable or something. Well, why he gets that, there is also a RWBY companion in the Infinity Editor. It does absolutely nothing. He follows you. He's adorable. RWBY is in the game. Best game ever made. 10 out of 10.
hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Mitochondria.
And my name's Dinky.
And
Still
we
nothing
worked on.
equivalent. The only other possible suggestion is to swap your Discord stream to stream your video player. Is the only thing I can suggest. So you play it on Windows Media Player, but then quickly swap your Discord stream to the media player.
Okay, let me set that up.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve. We apologise, and sorry to the audience. But
Hello,
this is
everybody. I'm
well
Steve
worth it. I'm
Mitochondria.
very interested to hear
And
about
my
our
name's
Remnant VR.
Dinky.
And we worked on Remnant VR.
You can't pet the dog, but
Also,
he
keep in
does
mind,
stand
that wasn't just the
perfectly
two of us, but a
triumphantly
lot-
beside RWBY as if RWBY is like a protagonist, because she kind of is.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Mitochondria.
Oh, and Steve is in the chat, yes. So, Sxips. Oh, wait. No, wait. We might just be in luck. I was about to start filling air.
Yeah, I think the video footage is about to come up right now.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm going to have to do it a little sketchy way, but we'll see if this works better.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Mitochondria.
And my name's Dinky.
And we worked on
Sound,
Remnant
no-
VR.
Video.
Also, keep in mind that it
Is
wasn't
it
just
playing?
the two of us. A lot of our friends stepped in to help out.
It looks like it's playing like on the bottom. Yeah.
We're getting nothing. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Well, while Ishmaru plays around with that, and we will definitely try to get it going, Steve, we profusely apologise. Sxips, how do you crack open a Switch? I'm just interested, actually. So how do you?
Modding the Switch. So it's actually not that hard to do. You just need like a certain tools for it. So either you get an RCM jig. You just need a micro SD card and RCM jig, or if you don't want to pay money for an RCM jig, just bend like a paper clip a certain way so it goes into like a certain slot on the Switch. I think like where the right Joy-Con is, because you want to activate like the sleep mode for it. because that's what you need in order to like boot up like the modded stuff to be on your Switch, like Atmosphere and all that. Like, there's a lot of tutorials out there that go more in depth than what I say here, but like it's actually not that hard to like hack your Switch.
Oh, okay. I'm just imagining the old days of the PSP where you needed like a magic battery and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's
Okay, so I'm gonna try something, but there's a chance we get feedback, so...
Oh! Maybe I was wrong, actually. I apologize. According to Danger Noodle Animations, it was working with the audio and video. But I was not getting that. I apologize. Maybe you had it right the first time.
Oh, okay.
Again, sorry. I'm trying. Look, guys. Still went better than the first RTX. Come on, guys. We're doing great. I was there. I was for the first RTX Australia. It was pretty rough. I loved every minute of it. I saw in person the motion capture video that we've all seen. The first like live action motion capture thingy. I was there. I remember the old days, the long ago.
Let me try this again. One
in
more.
the old era.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Mitochondria.
Oh, there you go. I heard
Oh,
that.
but your video stream.
We worked on.
You've got this. Okay, the audio came through then, but now we're just seeing a black screen.
Okay. Getting there.
So maybe you could do the most ghetto thing possible, play the audio and move the video out of the way.
Did he give you the video through like a Google Drive?
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say maybe you could switch like the source to like the Google Drive like tab and like play it through there.
Nah, hang on one sec. Let's try this.
Okay, everyone needs to get their VR goggles and put them on, and we'll meet him there in Remnant VR. This is a joke.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Mitochondria.
Oh, there it is. Okay, now we just saw it before the video was playing. I did see an image.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Mitochondria.
Okay. I'm gonna somehow have to hit play twice in rapid succession to get both videos playing at simultaneously. So
Yes.
bear with me.
I believe you can just shrink it down, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's the Summer of RWBY QuickTime event. Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Mitochondria. Hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Mitochondria, and we worked on Remnant VR. And we worked on Remnant VR.
Also, keep in mind that it wasn't just the two of us. Also, keep in mind that it wasn't just the two of us, but a lot of our friends.
He's gone to such an effort. Look at the quality of this video, and we're destroying it. This is the most professional thing we've seen so far. I'm so sorry.
Provided incredible feedback and general support. Yankee had neon artwork that we used for graffiti. Zon was able to do it. The airbrush, some other.
Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah, I'm feeding back from like the stream itself. Yeah, there's like that double audio. Now you have 4 times the surround sound.
Oh dear.
We might have to. Maybe I have to disable us while we let the video. I may have to disable our audio while we let the video play, and then we'll comment after.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Chat, we're relying on you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Mitochondria. Hello, everybody. I'm
my
Steve the
name's Dinky.
Mitochondria, and we worked on Remnant VR.
Also, keep in mind that it wasn't just the two of us, but a lot of our friends stepped in to help out. Phantom was able to do a ton of weapon animations and modeling. Sir Leshen let us use a Smartnetzer and trumpet model. Ranger provided incredible feedback and general support. Syndiaki had neon artwork that we used for graffiti. Zalin was able to do it. The airbrush, some other models for the building, some grim models, and Rig the Nevermore. Several friends jumped in to do voices for the characters. O Ramos was able to voice Winter, and we also had Tina do motion capture for Winter. Dana and Tina modeled a few of the Atlesian characters as well. Guamsky, Yoshi, and Sxips made all the music for the game. We actually had no music in the early days of testing, and when Sxips joined in, he realized and offered to make looping music for all the rounds, which really makes the game such a blast. When the game was finished, Ray, Neo, Master Chief 2021, Lanfear, Snowbreeze, Kel, TJ Jazz, and several others helped to record gameplay, trailers, as well as visit public instances to help new players learn the ropes. We can't thank them all enough for helping with this game.
All right, so before we get into the actual game, I kind of want to talk about like how this whole thing started, which ironically enough was after completing the library and me wanting to show it off over at a community meetup in VR chat.
Yeah, so we had met each other in virtual reality in VR chat, just kind of at a developer meetup of a bunch of people that get together and talk shop. And we both found out that we were fans of RWBY, and I do a lot of programming and code, and Steve does amazing environment works as well as animations and anything in the art department. So it just kind of was this, you know, this perfect union of like, well, I can do all the code and make the guns kill things, and he was kind of like, well, I can do the animations and make the things you kill look cool, and it just it went from there. It was super cool meeting in VR and starting to work on the project together.
We wanted to do a small, simple test. Have one Beowulf and one arena. You get one Crescent Rose to work with, and it would have been perfectly fine and simple, and there would not be definitely not be a year-long journey of trying to figure out.
We were both super busy. You had like a bunch of animation projects in your worlds, and I had worlds I was like 90% done with all this stuff, and just wouldn't let it get crazy.
No.
One little enemy.
One little enemy. What could possibly go wrong?
Much later, fully made Vale, like 9 different enemy types, flying enemies, rolling enemies, 2 boss fights, destructible environments, just...
What, like 12 weapons?
Oh, man. We ended up having so much weapons that I remember at one point when we started, we just had the main cast weapons. Of course, we started with Ruby's Scythe and with Weiss's Mirtnaster, and we were doing those, and then before we knew it, we had like, 10, 15 weapons or whatever it was, and we're like, well, it'd be kind of fun if the players, instead of starting as a huntsman, they started as just run-of-the-mill Atlas soldiers.
Yeah.
You don't have any special rocket jumps or any good melee. You got a gun and just waves of Grim, and if you were able to beat that, you were upgraded to the higher difficulties as well as unlocking your choice of one huntsman weapon, and every time you run it back, you get another credit to purchase a new weapon. So it gave people something to shoot for as they went. And some, the idea to progress from a standard Atlas soldier into a huntsman, since huntsmen are kind of, a step above, a league above, we wanted to give players that advancement, that progression.
I think one of my favorite things was whenever we were doing the test phases and bringing random people into the world to kind of test things out, was their reaction to activating the Crescent Rose and doing like a rocket jump. That was like the coolest thing to see, like every time.
BB.
Yeah.
Dang it. I messed up.
For a humble fan game, I'm proud of what we did, because you have to remember we made Remnant VR before Hell Split Arena and before Hell Sweeper came out. All those games where you sort of had all of this vertical movement. Everyone was still very scared to sort of throw the player around in VR because motion sickness is a very big concern in virtual reality. So people are careful with it. But as people have gotten used to the technology, players want more and more. So we were one of the first games, even as a fan game, we were like, you take Crescent Rose, you jump and shoot, and based on what direction you shoot, you'll launch yourself up or you'll launch yourself back, which became a core mechanic to dodging the enemies, because if you're not fully using your weapons to bounce all over the place like they do in the show, you're just going to get caught and killed. So...
flying through and just popping somebody. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! God, that is actually so dope. Woo!
But then that became something that we had to work around, because at the time the AI would just like be running around in circles. People would be like jumping over them. They'd have to go back over, and then it's just a constant jump back and forth. And that's when you made the Beowulfs jump at them.
I forgot about that because there was a whole stage where, for those of you that don't know much about how video games are made, you'll see a lot of zombie games and you'll see a lot of like AI that sort of feels like it's stuck to the ground, moving really slow. That's because the way game development works, it's super easy to kind of create a floor for enemies to walk around on, but then they're stuck to it. It's more of an advanced technique to break them off of that floor and get them moving through the air. So when we first added all of the rocket jump capabilities, we had this problem where all of our enemies were just coded very basically. They were stuck to the floor, and it was like, well, there's no way for the enemies to kill the players. There's no threat. The game isn't hard. And that's where the Beowulf started jumping into the air. And if they hit you in the air, they'll knock you towards the ground into the horde of enemies. Or we have the little mini Nevermores that'll fly and swoop down and hit you and knock you down into the enemy. So we had to add all of these mechanics to combat how much movement we gave the player. Because there was a moment where we were debating kind of like getting rid of some of the players' movement. Like we were saying, it's not hard like this. We might have to get rid of rocket jumping. It's too much. And then we just really wanted to make a good game. So like, it's going to be hard. We'll really take on the challenge. And I was like, I can figure something out. Jumps or flying enemies. We just really had to, it's one of those things you don't think about, but we really got stuck and we wanted to make sure players had that maximum movement. So we took up the challenge and made better AI so players could enjoy the full movement in RWBY.
I want to take a little bit step back so that we can talk about like the actual objectives and then work our way through the enemy. It's like, while all this is going on, you're supposed to retrieve what, like 3 or 5?
Yeah, 1 box for yourself and 1 team objective per round, but they just add up if you're getting behind on them.
Yeah. So it's like every round, 1 like local player objective and 1 synchronized team objective would spawn. 1 that would be red for you, that's local, so that that's different for everybody. And you basically go up to it, you smack the crate, you get Lee-in. And then the main objective, which was yellow or gold, is a synchronized one where you grab it and then run over to the objective, slap it down, you get Lee-in. The actual objective is to just clear the Grim out. But of course, if you don't get upgrades every round in between, you can't, if you don't get the side objectives done, you don't get the Lee-in, you can't get the upgrades. And if you don't upgrade, you're going to get your ass kicked in the 4th or 5th round where we start introducing the Ursas and Alpha Beowulfs.
Yeah, they'll really mess you up. It's definitely, after round 5, it gets really chaotic because you got the birds coming in at 3, you've got things rolling all over the place, you've got Beowulfs sprinting at you, jumping at you if you get in the air, you've got the Ursas that'll kind of enrage and sprint at you until they hit you. They've just got a ton of health and they're hard to take down. You got the Alpha Beowulfs, and if someone angers one of those, it's going to get really chaotic. You're supposed to avoid them. But, you know, that's a learning mechanic for people that are new.
No, yeah.
I've heard so many times from players, they've always complimented us on just how chaotic it gets in battle. And it just turns into like a chaotic mess of combat and fun, I think. I think it really kind of nails the RWBY vibe, though, because anytime you watch the show, they're just surrounded and it's attack after attack after attack. There's always something to hit.
There's always something in the way.
And VR is a great way to experience it.
Yeah.
There's always problems. There's always something to deal with.
And I think that it was so cool to see the wave of like people slapping down their own progress on Twitter, and it's like them being able to slap down the time and like medals that they got and the difficulty that they were playing on and the amount of like side objectives that they got done. It was really fucking cool. Like, and then seeing that and then seeing people do their like, I finally did it. I beat Remnant VR in grim difficulty, and it's like, oh my god, that was so cool.
That was nice,
man.
Yeah. Is it? And we have the trophies up here because you had your easy, your medium. What was it? Hard and grim.
Yeah. So
I gotta be honest, we definitely didn't want it to be easy, and I still think to this day I haven't, as a team, because it's a little easier on solo. I don't think I've beat grim difficulty because it's just there's so many grim and it's just so much to deal with. Yeah, that's a tough difficulty. So that was part of that arena that was really fun. The Death Stalker arena is we had given players so much movement where they were kind of rocket jumping all over the city and then throwing Blake's grappling hook and just pulling themselves all over this huge city and going really fast. And in the Death Stalker arena, you've got these kind of shield walls all around you and this roof. And you all of a sudden, I don't even think you could grapple to the shield walls because we determined it was too overpowered, but you're just kind of trapped in this like smaller space with this giant Death Stalker that's just grabbing people and stinging you, and then the toxins for it and its brood will just stop your movement for a few seconds.
Oh no,
and
yeah.
These are even more potent than the smaller ones in the game. So it's just your movement is all of a sudden restricted to what you're used to, and you're getting stung and full of toxins and locked in place, and it's doing instant kill moves, and you have to revive teammates and get people out of its grapples and stuff. And it was just a chaotic mess.
So it was either the Deathstalker or the Nevermore. You spawn in or you get dropped off at this highway area, but basically it's an empty highway and it's all foggy and whatnot, and there's no threat that seems to be in the way, and all of a sudden it's like whenever you walk up to it, it just lands right in front of you, and it has the health bar and it screeches, and then it takes off. So
yeah, that was cool. I don't know if you remember it, but this is where you came up with, because you were doing a lot of the environment art, and you would always have like some really good ideas for gameplay mechanics. So we wanted to have the Deathstalker arena, you were stuck in that little box with it, but it was kind of a static environment, not too much going on.
Yeah.
You really wanted this giant Nevermore to just destroy the city around you.
Absolutely.
And we had all of these movement mechanics like rocket jumps, and you can grappling hook onto the Nevermore to swing yourself around if you're Blake. So then when the idea came up, you had the idea, well, what if the Nevermore at certain, points when it sells low enough, it swoops by and destroys a trunk of the bridge. So you go from having this big long stretch of highway where you have enough space to dodge all of its attacks and keep yourself safe, to all of a sudden you're missing these gaps. And if you fall off the bridge, we were kind of nice. You'll take a little bit of damage and then you'll come back up on the ridge on your own. But it's going to interrupt your shield recharge. So it just becomes this whole thing where a bunch of the bridge is missing. You don't have much room left to dodge all of its attacks, and it just becomes a more and more stressful environment to fight the thing in, especially when the second one shows up partway through.
Oh no, yeah,
that got like no bridge left, and then there's a second one, by the way. We were kind of sadistic thinking back.
It was so funny though. It was funny.
It was. You have to remember, we did this in VR chat, so we can finish a build, we can make some changes, add some new enemies, add some new mechanics, upload it, and then grab all of our friends and be, hey, come here a second. I want to show you something. Because I remember the first time there's that bullhead coming in to take you to the boss, and our friends had been so used to like, oh, come in the thing and fight some like brims, and now the Beowulfs are sprinting, and now there's birds, and like, okay. But the first time they like got to the end, and like, we've done this playtesting a bunch before. We get to the shop, and then we went on wave 7, and then there's just this wave question mark, and like, wait, what's going on? And they see the bullhead flying, and like, wait, what is this? What did you guys cook up? What are you doing? And then they would just see that first reveal of the Deathstalker popping out or the birds landing, and just start losing their shit and freaking out and running around. It was great. That was the funnest part of development, is just being able to go through with players and see all their reactions in real time.
One of the things that I think you forgot to mention was it could swoop down and pick players up and hold them in place for a little bit while doing damage. And if you were got by this thing, you'd have to basically like smack the damn talons or shoot at it so it would have enough damage to let go of the player. And
that's right.
Man, destroy.
And it's VR, so you're in VR.
Yeah.
And we were super nervous about that, because like everyone's always worried about motion sickness in VR, but we just wanted to like have some fun.
We just wanted to have fun.
Upside down in VR, and you're having to like reach up at your feet and try and smack its claws to get it to drop you, and you're just hearing this like bone crunching sound as it squeezes you. That was great.
It was always funny because it's like you'd be fighting with your friends, taking on the smaller Nevermore whenever it sent them out, and it's like, you're having a blast, and all of a sudden it's like one of your friends is like, ah! And it's like, oh, they got me, fucking. Oh man,
that was great.
Good times.
I forgot how much fun we had with that project.
I think the coolest bit was whenever it was all said and done, and we didn't even think we were probably going to be able to do this, but we were able to do a release party, and that was like one of the coolest nights, because that was when we actually released the world, and we got a lot of our friends and community members together to like show off like a presentation on what this world was about, and just kind of just have a really cool launch party for it.
A launch party on a flying Atlas ship yacht with a bunch of like snacks and drinks and a big stage just flying above the city of Vale. And then we even set up, we were very burnt out at that point. I remember it had been like a year of constant development and work on the side, and we just wanted to be done with it, and we're like, maybe we can stick together and do one more giant space yacht level with a stage and an intro animation where a bunch of Nevermores attack the yacht. And then
dude, that was
like, we had all of our friends there, and they didn't know, no one knew it was coming.
That was actually really neat. Yeah. So we had like 70-something people at the party at the time, And it's like we're giving our like thank you for being able to jump in, and we appreciate you guys hopping in and whatnot and be able to check this out. We're going to be releasing this world. We just want to let you guys have fun for a little bit, mingle and whatnot. And then it's like by the time that we did our thanks and whatnot, it's like we were finally able to like talk about the stuff that we had done and what we planned on doing. And from there, it's like I think it was Phantom that was like taking a bit of time to hit the button for the thing to actually go off.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the little start the event.
No,
button.
start the event button. Oh man! But then whenever it happened, it's like things started getting like the nice fancy music turned to a darker tone, and then Nevermore started jumping on, like flying up to and perching on the trusses above us, and there's like other birds from left and right, and all of a sudden it's like there's a big one, the Nevermore, the boss Nevermore lands on it and then screeches and then does a carpet bomb towards the stage. And that was like people that actually brought guns on their avatar started like shooting at the Nevermore and like freaking out. People were like screaming and laughing and shit.
We had a bunch of recorded audio too, where like down below in the city of Vale,
oh no, yeah,
explosions and like citizens screaming, and we kind of like let it. We're like, oh no, like the Grimm are attacking the city of Vale. Someone needs to help, and then turned around, released the world, made the game like available, dropped some portals so people could go from that stage show where they saw the city get attacked with us, with the developers, to going and starting their first mission in the game and getting to like fight off all the Grimm they had seen start the attack. That was really cool.
That was like, oh, man.
Yeah,
I'm just remembering it, and it's like seeing the fucking carpet bomb towards the stage. And it's like, oh fuck!
I just remember, I think Gormander was there, and people like him, where they get like super excited into it. He was just like, "Yeah, let's kill some Grimm!" And just see them all so excited.
Yeah, that was fucking great.
And you're just never gonna see stuff like that, like developers coming together and then being like, "Hey, here's the game, blah blah blah. Here's what we, how we worked on it. We're meeting in VR with all these people on a flying space yacht to have a party and like pitch off our game, like launch it off, and then we're getting attacked. Go get."
Yeah,
it's just so cool.
That was a damn good night. Like, man.
Yeah.
All right, if you can give any advice to someone who wants to make a fan game, what advice would it be?
So there's a lot that goes into game development, but if you're really wanting to get into some part of game development, you need to learn how to learn. And that's kind of weird, but me and Steve are both really good at that. Like if we don't know something, we don't know how to do a certain animation or a certain sound editing thing or some kind of a coded thing or an environment lighting type of a thing, we'll just immediately look it up on our own and figure it out, because you can find practically everything on Google or YouTube these days. There's just so many guides. We've kind of came across multiple people as we've worked with various projects and tried to like take them on and see if they wanted to be part of it, that they would hit a snag and they'd be like, well, I don't know how to do this. And they would just stop. And you can never tell yourself, I don't know how to do this. You need to tell yourself, I don't know how to do this yet, which is a huge difference, because you can learn anything you want to do. You're not going to be great at it when you start. That's like just how anything goes, but you can become great at it if you do start.
One of the things I think really skyrocketed my knowledge on game development is actually VR chat. Finding a community that creates and knows how to create and can help people with whatever you're trying to do. It's like not just being able to look it up, but being able to ask people that know what they're doing. Having a strong, positive work environment so that you are able to learn from others as well as from yourself, of course. But yeah, just finding a nice community to be able to like learn from. That's a good way to put it.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed our post-dev talk about Remnant VR. You can play the game either in VR or desktop for free on VR Chat's cross-platform spotlight. Have fun and take care.
Hello.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay.
Are we back?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Steve. I am so sorry about all the technical difficulties. But yeah, that's just impressive stuff. So I'm glad you can make it here.
That was absolutely fascinating, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, I didn't get to hear it from my end, but it works for you, so we left it as is. But I'm definitely gonna rewatch it when I get out of here.
Yeah, actually, very, very in depth and very well presented. Makes us look like shit. No, no, I'm fascinated about that whole project. I'd like to look into that more. I previously knew a little bit about it, but that completely went by me. I thought, oh yeah, that does exist, and I knew nothing about it. I'm sure it's good. And then I'm like, holy crap, that's a video game. That's a full experience.
Definitely, yeah.
Mm.
I did watch a little bit, and I turned it off because I was like, okay, if he was here live, I wouldn't know any of this, so I feel like I'm cheating by having that information beforehand. So, but I did get to the point where he was talking about, developing the AI for the Grim to jump, and I think a little bit past that, talking about like unlocking weapons and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just very, very interesting, and just the end quality was just for something that's I don't really know much about the VR realm. I don't never owned any VR device, but if I did, it would be to play this. To be honest, it's just really impressive stuff.
No, well, one thing I've done a tiny bit of VR development. What I can tell you is, that's clearly built out of the VR chat sort of SDK, but to make something good in VR is really hard because it's essentially you're like back in 1980s again because it's like there are no rules, everyone's figuring it out. That was a really polished experience, and that is really impressive from a technical side as well as hey, that's a cool fan game. Like I was genuinely surprised when that video was playing about how smooth that looked and how well I'm sure it would make you a bit sick. How not vomit inducing it was, which is like the main problem with all VR still.
Mm-hmm.
As well as some really polished visuals and gameplay mechanics. Like I would absolutely love for him to be in the video call with us right now. Sorry, my brain stopped working. Yeah, I think we'll just keep chatting for a bit. So if people want to ask him questions in the chat, like I don't think we're gonna wind down because like, hey, it's his turn to shine. Think optimizing for shit in VR. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm
I'm
curious
just
because
reading
many
some of the
people play
comments.
this without VR. I'm wondering how the game plays because it's usually an issue when you take essentially it's almost essentially porting it because if you take something that's intended to be played in VR with that handset and then change it to just like a mouse and keyboard, there's definitely going to be a lot lost in the experience. So I'm kind of curious how that plays out.
That'd be a fascinating experiment, but one for them, I assume. That would be very interesting. Yeah, and he is in the chat to answer any questions. Though you're probably reading. Yeah, people who are watching, you can read that. Well, what I've got from this panel is so many different ways of interpreting the project that they all largely focus on the idea of how to nail the feel, which I think is, of course, the main part of it. Is the feel of RWBY is its unique selling point. Like, it's very interesting to see essentially 4 different takes on the same idea, but vastly different.
Exactly, and I think that's definitely going to come up in our a little panel about the Dream RWBY game because what's going to make some conflict is you can kind of see it in everyone's project, but you can almost kind of get a feel of what RWBY means to them by what mechanics they build out in their game.
Yes. We've talked previously about that, and we'll save that for the panel, but largely I think that comes down to probably focusing in on that panel to what Rooster Teeth could have done. I think that's the only way you can do it, because the dream game for RWBY could be anything, but we'll save all that for that talk.
Yes, we don't have to get into it here, but yeah.
Yeah. Just trying. I might actually have to dip because I've got to start to get ready for work. But I think if possible, you guys might should chat or something just to keep that chat going because I think some people are very interested about that VR game and deserves the chat to be open for questions on that. Anyway, sorry. It's been utterly fantastic to meet all you guys and all the people watching. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you too.
Yeah, you too, Jay. You have a good one.
Take care.
Yeah. Captures round. How do I leave? Yeah, here we go. Bye.
See ya. But yeah, definitely like coolest thing with RWBY has always been how much inspiration it kind of triggers in people, whether it's a fan game or fan fictions or fan animations or fan comics or fan art. Like, it's always been like there's something about it. Like, even if you want to say you're uh, a critic, there's still like something to it that even captivates critics wanting to rewrite projects, and that's kind of like I just find that really fascinating because truly bad projects just kind of got forgotten. No one really bothers with that kind of stuff, but there's always something in RWBY that always kind of captivates people, and it varies from person to person. I just think that's pretty cool in and of itself.
Yeah, I think especially like the Ruby community, I've seen like out of all the communities I've been in, like there's a lot of like fan projects and fan ideas that have been like made over the years.
Oh yeah, and when I was working with the trying to help set up the RWBY Fangame wiki, we came across there's just like this quite sad, but there's a lot of really potential fan games that ended up kind of closing um, for lack of interest. But there was some really impressive stuff, like RWBY from Dust. If you ever look that up, there was a playable alpha of it, but it was one of the first earliest attempts at like open world RWBY game. I've seen all sorts of RPG Maker projects, and there's just a lot out there. So one of the things that I started the wiki and the Discord server to try to help encourage and keep these projects going because we have some real talent in this fandom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
Yep, you're all good. I can hear you.
Okay. It's kind of figured if Steve's in the chat here, maybe he can jump on the Discord and you can actually hear him talk a little bit.
Mm.
Okay, let me see if I can get him in.
Oh, you're talking about Steve himself?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's cool. I'm not sure how much longer I could be on here. I still have a couple. So, I think I might have to head out too, but it was great seeing y'all, like even to talk about like the project and stuff we've seen today. Very impressive stuff from the community and all that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I hope you all have a good night and like y'all stay safe out there. Y'all have a good one.
Yeah, take care. Thank you.
No problem.
You guys wanna stay on for just a moment? I'm gonna try to get Steve in to jump in. So while we wait for that, any other questions? Any other thoughts about things you've seen so far? We still have 2 more fan game panels coming up later during Summer RWBY, so definitely check them out. It's got some really cool projects coming up. Sorry, a few more technical issues.
Hey, there we go.
There we go. Good.
Yeah, sorry about that. I am still at work, so I might, but I should be good now. But don't tell anybody. Anyway.
It's all good. Yeah. If you want, you can take the floor. You could talk a little bit the things you didn't get to talk about in the video.
No, yeah, sure. I will say one of the things that I noticed after doing a lot of like editing it and whatnot for the video, we didn't get to even mention about the vending machines. Like there were vending machines scattered around that you can like beat up and then get sodas out of it, so that you could actually get a health boost or even a speed boost on a random chance. The shop actually has several upgrades revolving around health upgrades, aura, so that you can increase your shields, damage types for either range or melee, and then what's it called? The charged shot, depending on the weapon that you're using. If you could add one more playable RWBY character to your project, who would it be? They were all based on weapons. We had the main cast, obviously. Obviously, there was a huge, like, oh, we need to get Juniper in there. We gotta get Team Juniper in there. And it's like, yes, I think it would be really cool to be able to have all those weapons. And the unfortunate truth is that there were so many weapons in there. And you have to keep in mind, this is a synchronized, like, duplicate. Like, every person that was playing the game was able to get one of each weapon, which means that there had to be 4 times the amount of weapons that were on screen. Coco's machine gun is actually in there. If you beat, I think it was if you beat the Grim difficulty with a weapon that wasn't Coco's, then you basically get the ability to like buy those from the armory. So you would actually be able to have Coco's minigun. And as a funny bonus, whenever you jump and shoot at the ground, you could basically like kind of glide from the recoil. It was funny. Oh shit, there's a wasp. Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay, we're good.
It was always interesting with like, that's something that also came up with Jay's project, is the inertia with RWBY, because you know a lot of weapons can propel the characters, and I remember you talk a bit about people's experience doing that too. Is that something like? I don't, like I mentioned, I don't have much experience with VR. So is that something that like you had to actually build from the ground up, or was there some sort of framework for that already in?
I gotta increase your voice. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Sorry. I was just basically asking, you know, about inertia. Was that something that you were able to use VR chat already to do that, or was that something you kind of had to program in?
I think it was kind of sort of built in because Unity physics and player physics, but Dinky still had to figure out, okay, because Dinky did all the programming, but he basically had to figure out, okay, you have the crescent rows. If you are jumping and shooting, then that is basically like causing a force in a certain direction, which means that you would go in the opposite direction. And so you could basically aim wherever you were going, as long as you were in midair and able to shoot crescent rows. You were able to guide yourself in those directions using the rocket jump. And then whenever you got the charge shot upgrade for the crescent rows, it would make you go even further. The wasp is nowhere in sight. Okay, there it is. Can Weiss make her glyphs? Weiss only gets the ice ability, because I believe somebody mentioned in here earlier, if Weiss has all of her glyph abilities in-game, she's basically God, and it's like we did not want to have an overpowered character in this game. However, Weiss is still incredibly versatile when it comes to like her abilities. She was able to double jump, like do a jump dash. She was able to she was able to block off alleyways with a charged shot ability from her sword, and basically have a huge ice wall or like spike thing that prevented Grim from going through alleyways. there was a bit where whenever people were downed, I showed it in the video earlier where I stab the ground and it does ice all around me. That was something that basically you would use as a medic in order to revive players. So whenever they're down, they cannot move. Whenever you have to revive players, you have to stay next to them, like your typical revival scenario, in order to get them back on their feet and running around again before, well, they're sent to the infirmary death room. But see here, I'm trying to remember all of the abilities. She also had another charge shot where it just fired directly at like whatever you were targeting as a more powerful hit. But she was still a really good echo sound issues.
I don't hear them.
I don't know. A little echo. Okay. It might be the room I'm in. But hard to imagine it's not committing all of Team RWBY for a lot of the projects, committing to all of Jennifer a lot too. No, yeah, and it's not the fact that it's like we didn't want them on there, it's just the limiting factor of like, okay, you can only have so many Udon things going at once. The more weapons that we added, the more performance hit it would take, because everybody has to have a duplicate, like 4 versions of the same weapon, so that everybody can have the same ability, or because you don't want people fighting over, oh, I went Crescent Rose, no, I went Crescent Rose, I want to be RWBY this time, well, I want to be Yang this time, no, I'm Yang this, that whole argument. So everybody gets to be everybody. I have double voice, okay. I don't know how to fix that.
It might just be the mic.
Could be. I'm going to try to put it over here, I'm sorry. 2 input sounds on. I don't know how that would make sense because it's just my microphone.
It could be the Discord.
Discord, microphone, Realtek, audio.
We disabled.
There we go. Okay. Is that better?
I hear you fine.
Oh god. I'm hearing you through the speakers now. There we go. Alright.
All good now?
I hope so. It's all up to the chat. Laptop mic? Laptop mic. I'm wearing a headset. I would hope that the headset is on. Internal, is it? No, yeah, it's going to the microphone. I just have a shitty microphone, but I don't know what I can do about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of pop showed up here, so no.
No, yeah, my apologies. Again, it's like I didn't think I was going to be able to present anything about it like live, and it's like even if I was able to, I wouldn't be able to show all those things in the video that was shown off. If I did present live, that wasp. Okay. Anyway, but no, yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else that I might have missed during development. There's definitely a lot.
Oh, Selector had a question about burnout.
Oh no, yeah. What's up? There was definitely like I think it was like the 7th month in development where it started hitting hard, because the beginning it's like, oh, we're modeling all this shit, we're doing all the animation, we're doing all the rigging and getting all that taken care of. Like I had, okay, that's something I should also mention. So most of the models for the Grim are using Grim Eclipse assets. I mean, it's like we're not selling the game, we're not doing anything, it's just for fun. So it's like, what's the harm in it? But regarding that, they were not rigged models. They were just OBJs with their respective textures. So I needed to go through and rig like every single Grim and like animate all of their cycles. So all the walks, the attacks, the abilities that they would do and whatnot. That was all me. Aside from the Nevermore, Jeffrey had modeled a lot of the chunks of the Nevermore and did like the rigging for it. Or that's Zalin, rather. But yeah, if there was a Grim that was missing, then it's like we would have to make it. So one of the things that I wanted to have was the Alpha Beowulf, and since that wasn't, I would know. Yeah, it wasn't Grim Eclipse, but I think the version in Grim Eclipse wasn't all that great. So I wanted to make it more accurate to the Volume 3 version. But I think 7th month is where we really started to get weighed down on things, and it's like you work on the same thing for a certain amount of time. It's like you're going to start slowing down. You're going to start noticing it. But the thing that really kept us going was the ability to get constant, like fresh eyes and feedback. Because whenever you're looking at the same thing over and over and over again, seeing people's first reaction and being excited about the project really just refreshes like your energy about it, and being able to keep working on the thing that you've wanted to see get done. Like, so I think if you guys are ever like experiencing burnout, try showing it to someone who has never seen it before and getting their opinions on it, because it's like that's definitely something that kept us going.
I can definitely relate to that. You know, sometimes when you get stuck in bug fixing, you know, hell, sometimes just hearing those like, "Hey, this looks awesome," you know, or some comment, even if it's just minor, just really helps push you forward through it. So definitely relate with that.
Yeah.
I was also gonna ask, and maybe you did cover it in the video. I only got to see the first third before this started, but I know you've been working on some other VR worlds since then. Do you ever plan on returning back to Remnant VR?
Remnant VR is a bit of a tricky one, because I'm the only person. Well, I wouldn't say the only person, but it's like out of Dinky and I don't do any programming, and I don't plan on learning programming. That is not something my brain is made for. And if I was to make something like Remnant VR again, it's like I would rather have Dinky on board for it. However, Remnant VR was supposed to get Dinky support on like Patreon, so that people could basically help him like get support so that he can continue working on stuff like that. Unfortunately, that wasn't able to happen, so he went to go working on Gun 'Em Down, which was basically Call of Duty in VR chat. Remnant VR Volume 2 Dance Party. Yeah. Does RWBY go fast? I guess that's another one. Oh no! Technically, yes. There was an avatar pedestal that was next to it that you could access next to the shooting range for Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang. I think we got the full cast eventually. But RWBY basically had a double jump ability that would allow you to like zoom past a lot of things, using like an avatar exploit somewhat in VR chat. I'm derailing. Hold on. My apologies. I guess I'll answer another question if there's one. At the time, I think there weren't so many auto-rig tools. No, yeah. So, I think I used Advanced Skeleton, because at the time I was still using Maya. I use a lot more Blender now, and I fucking love Blender. I'm not sponsored or anything, but call me Funny Kitchen Appliance. It's fun to have the ADHD, yeah. I don't know, there's just a lot of things that I could probably talk about this for like days, but I'm also trying to keep it consistent. Do the models have different clothes? Indigo did a damn good job trying to incorporate as many different outfits from like the series as possible. I think all of the outfits from Grimma Clips eventually made it onto the VR chat avatars, and even if there aren't, the Beacon Library world that I mentioned previously at the very beginning of the video has a ton of avatars, just RWBY, that you can access in the library in order to pick whichever character that you want. And there's actually quite a few, not just Team RWBY or Juniper, but it's like Talkative Drew and Indigo, both, and quite a few other people did a lot of different avatars for people to use in VR chat. So it's like, if you wanted to be like any character, it's like it's probably there. Yeah. But that's in a different VR chat world, of course. Just for like having a chill hangout world or an avatar type of like library basically. Oh no, yeah, Volume 7 should be there too. Is there a place where you have your assets available for purchase? Programmer is struggling with creating assets and would be such a waste not to use those great assets. There are 2 pages. One of them is on Gumroad and one of them is on Booth. I've been primarily using Booth in order to slap things down, but if you're looking at the buildings that were made for Remnant VR, then you can find that one on Gumroad. Let me see if I can locate it. Alright, here we go. Yeah. I also forgot that I put the Anime Skydome on here. But there is the generic city asset pack, and then there's Anime Skydome. And those two were in mind of trying to... do you mind if I actually put a link in here? Is that possible?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay. But there's that one, and then let me find the booth for you. The booth has been kind of primarily with a lot of the cyberpunk stuff that I've been working on, which is kind of what I moved towards after working on Remnant VR. I got a little obsessed with Cyberpunk 2077 after the Edge Runners anime happened, and I have like the funny cyber psychosis brain rot going on. But yeah, hopefully that can help you out with that. And I still need to relocate the Beacon Amphitheater. I remember you asking about that earlier, Secular, and I don't want to talk about the whole month and a half that I've had to deal with life stuff, but I do need to eventually slap the amphitheater down for people to be able to access, because that was supposed to be a gift for the community. I just want to make sure that if people use the stuff that we make, that it is credited, because last time that we tried something like that, people just snatched it and used it for some type of novel like dating simulator thing with RWBY, and it's like, all right, well, you know how it is, but I won't.
You can also send me those links through, and I can also post them on the Fangames server and
Sure.
the resources section if anyone want them.
Here, I'll send them in DMs.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard, but we touched a little bit on that too with asset using, and you know, if you're definitely using some, like Rooster Teeth had the content usage guidelines where you could use their, you know, model stuff, anything that they did, as long as you follow the rules. But people don't understand that also applies towards, you know, people's work too. You gotta make sure to credit them and get permission and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things where it's like, the buildings and a lot of the stuff that we've made for VR chat, is not something that you can find anywhere else. Like, we model that stuff from scratch, and then, well, I don't want to bring up old things, but I'm sure you remember that other message earlier about somebody asking if they could just snatch it from VR chat, and it's like, no, don't work my stuff, please.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
People don't realize even like screenshotting is still technically stealing.
Like, I don't mind if people screenshot, because that's actually another reason why those locations were made, because a lot of people that do web comics and illustrations and whatnot, that do a lot of RWBY artwork need backgrounds, and backgrounds are difficult. I'm not gonna, say it's not, but it's like, they're really good for being able to jump into VR chat, do a screenshot, and then draw on top of it in order to make sure it fits their style, so that it helps with their webcomic and whatnot. And it's just something that they can just fly around in, take a screenshot, and then draw over it. It's like, I don't mind that at all.
Right.
But asking straight up for the models themselves, it's like, no, we spent years on those.
I mean,
we might make them available eventually, but yeah.
And there's also like, programmers are kind of trained to kind of like copy paste a lot of things, and I think we kind of have this copy paste culture that, I'm technically a programmer by trade, but my background in school was in art, so I kind of see both worlds. And there's always like there's one thing for using, just quickly grabbing an asset just to prototype, but once you put it out on the public stage, you really shouldn't have stuff, things that you don't have permission to use. That when you're starting to show trailers and stuff like that, that stuff should be out. You should have original content or stuff you have permission to use.
Yeah. References are so essential to draw to. It's really handy. Yes. I want to slap that down there. Oh, hello. That's a wasp again. But I'm just keeping an eye on it real quick. But anyways, basically, I was just gonna say, it's like, if you're an artist and you still think that like having references, no, everybody uses reference. It's not a bad thing, and that's what those environments are also made for. So if it's helpful, it's helpful. But yeah. Oh shit. Okay. All right, this guy's getting a little too close for comfort, so I'm gonna have to take care of something. I'll be right back.
I want to quickly address something in the chat too. Slukur's RWBY Requiem is going to be in the fan game panel 3, which is on June 29th. So
oh, really? Nice. You mentioned, I didn't know that there was actually more panels. I thought there was just this one. So what else we got?
Well, we got, so yeah, the fan game group is actually quite big. So we really couldn't fit everyone into one. So we have 3 official panels. This is the first. We have another one, panel 2, which is going to be on June 21st. That was going to have games like JPDE, CBLT, DVRK, and I believe there's a tabletop game that's going to be on there. And then on the 29th, we'll have games such as RWBY Requiem. There'll also be RWBY's appearance in Rivals of the Aether. That's a really cool mod if anyone's played that. As well as some others too. So definitely.
Wow.
And then there's also the RWBY Dream Game panel, where we kind of do the typical discussions you see on anywhere from Reddit to Discord, just like what they want in a RWBY game, but from a developer perspective. So we're not just like, yeah, just have Capcom do it. Like, no, like, what will we focus on? How will we implement these features and that kind of stuff? That one is going to be on July 5th.
That is cool. I'm looking forward to it, dude. Like, I've never heard of so many projects like that. I'm surprised.
Oh yeah, and that's not even including there's a lot of projects who wanted to be on but couldn't make it, and others just There's a RWBY Monopoly game, and it's actually really interesting how they incorporate mechanics from Grim and Dust into the core mechanics of the game. It's pretty interesting. It's called Huntress of Remnant, so you can find them on Twitter.
Cool.
And then RWBY Survivors games, which I think is based on the Vampire Survivors. So it's kind of like a clone, but with RWBY characters. It's pretty cool too.
Hell yeah. That sounds great, actually. I'm gonna have to be there for that if I can. Around the same time, I assume.
Yeah, I think they're all at 3 p.m. So it's on the 21st and the 29th.
21st and 29th. Hell yeah, I'm down.
And feel free to pop into the Dream one too as well.
Oh no, yeah. I definitely have a few opinions about the ultimate funny RWBY Dream game, but I mean, who doesn't?
Exactly. I know you probably shouldn't. You're still supposed to be working, so I don't want to keep you. Does anyone have any last questions?
No, yeah, I was actually about to ask. It's like I definitely need to do the round, start locking things down, setting alarms. But if anybody happens to have questions, I'd be down to answer them. And if not, then I shall take my leave soon.
Wish I can tell if people are typing or just crickets.
Right. I guess, let's see here. No more questions. Thank you for your time. Yeah. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Good question.
I have a feeling that the only proper answer is Neapolitan, just being the RWBY thing.
Damn it, I can't say that now. I like chocolate. Chocolate's a good ice cream.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with chocolate.
Yeah. But yeah, I think if that's it, then I guess I'll get out of y'all's hair. Thank you for, again, letting me slap down a video for it so I could actually have something to present. But, yeah, I guess I'll leave it with, words, stuff, things. Y'all take it easy, have a good one and all that.
Yep. Take it easy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise.
And definitely thank you all for coming. Definitely check out the other, as well as tons and tons of other stuff in Summer RWBY, okay? All right, well, thank you so much for coming. Y'all take care. I'll end the stream now.